right in the center of it.
Wow.
Look at that. Oh, look at your face. You look like you're on like one of those shows where you can't talk.
Am I gonna lower my voice? I am a witness. I saw the crime. Hey guys, Brian here for 5 to Go. Erin's manning the camera right now, so she's not going to be in this episode. Today, we are talking about how to defrost your RV fridge. We've done this twice now. This will be the third time. And basically what happens is unlike in a house, there's a lot more humidity that kind of gets into your RV. And the way that these RV fridge works is they have fins in the back, and that humidity kind of hits those fins, and then the fins are what makes everything really cold. So that humidity sits on the fins and then turns into ice, and then over time more and more and more and more and more and more and more, and then you have a bunch of ice in the back, and then the fridge starts running less efficiently. So basically what you have to do is you have to get rid of the ice. The way that I have found works best is with a hairdryer. Now this is obviously not mine because my hair dries before I'm even out of the shower. But Erin has one. It's a little tiny one. I don't even know how powerful it is. I just kind of use it on warm. But basically, let's take a look inside the fridge, and then we'll see what this is going to do. So this is our RV fridge. It's got 2 doors. It's a little bigger than some. A lot of RV fridges have like 1 door or 1 wider door, or any number of configurations. But this one has 2. You can see we've already cleared out all the stuff we're worried about warming up, because this is going to be open for a long time while I do this. So milk and cheese and leftovers and lunch meat and anything that shouldn't warm up and then cool down and then warm up and then cool down needs to go somewhere else. Luckily, we have an outside fridge in our outside kitchen, so we don't ever really keep much in there. So there was plenty of room in there to put the milk and cheese and all of that stuff. So I just have stuff in here that I'm not worried about warming up, like condiments and salsa and stuff like that. It can warm up and get cold again. Down here, you can see kind of the back of the fridge. What you can't see are any of the fins. You'll see them at the end of this video, and you'll see what it's supposed to look like. But the problem here, this is all ice. Like, I can't even, this is just solid ice. So what I'm gonna do is, we've already cleared out the fridge. I'm gonna take this shelf out just to give myself some working room. And then you'll see there is a little plastic tray in here. So this little plastic tray right here has a spout. If you've ever looked at the outside of an RV fridge, there are vents, like horizontal vents, and then you'll see like a little hose that comes out. That's where that drains to, because this is supposed to just kind of, when you're not using it, like if you're not living in it full time, this fridge is not going to be hooked up all the time. It'll warm up, this stuff will melt naturally, drip down through there and out the outside, and then the next time you pull your camper out for a weekend trip, you turn on the fridge a day or 2 ahead, it gets cold, you load your stuff up, you go out, and all that. So full-time use, we have to do this a lot. So basically the water's going to drain out there. I'll show you what it looks like on the outside after we have water coming out. For right now, it's just a hose sticking out the side. So I'm going to take this shelf off. I'm going to get myself a stool to sit on, because squatting down for this long, not going to happen. And then I'll get the hairdryer hooked up, and then we'll talk about what I'm going to do. All right, top shelf is out. As you can see, got my big old block of ice here. Got my little drain pan here. I've got some paper towels. I'm just going to lay some paper towels in here, because this is actually coming out a little farther than this drip pan, so some of the water is going to drop straight down instead of running out. So I'm just going to catch as much water here as I can with some paper towels. I've got my hairdryer plugged in over there. A handy little holder right here on the door. So let's get some paper towels lining up here. And if I remember right, it dripped a lot last time. So let's talk about the hairdryer for a second. This one has hot, warm, and cool. And Erin, do most hairdryers have hot, warm, and cool, and then it has high and low for the velocity of the air. I'm probably going to go back and forth between hot and warm to get this thing started. Once it starts melting, I'm only going to use warm, because you want the ice to kind of melt on its own. You'll see later on that once it starts to melt, and once you can get to the fins, you can actually do warm and warm up the fins just a little bit, and the ice will slide off in big chunks, and then you're like done. It goes super fast once you get to that point. Problem here is I waited too long to do this, and I can't get to the fins at all. So I'm going to have to kind of brute force my way into the fins. What you don't want to do is you don't want to run this thing on high and get anywhere near the walls of your fridge, because these things get really hot. I'm sure others are even more powerful and get even hotter, and you can warp the plastic on the side of the fridge. You don't want to do that. And you can do damage to the fins in the back, you can do damage to the tray, you just don't want to do that. You don't need to do that. The whole goal here is just to kind of accelerate natural melting. So I'm going to start off with hot and warm, kind of get a feel for what's going on with the melting over here. So there's going to be a lot of sitting and aiming this thing in the back of the fridge. Here we go. Okay, I've just gotten to the point where I can start kind of pulling. You see, because all the frost is on the front of the fins. So I can actually pull the ice off as it loosens. So then I just have less to deal with melting. Gotta be careful not to bend the fins, so I'm not putting too much pressure on. They're still pretty frozen around the top, but the bottom obviously is melting faster, because I'm aimed there, and the warmer, the melted water is actually coming down and loosening it up pretty well. This is actually a good point to stop and talk about something for a second. So these fins, like I was saying, you don't want to get close to these fins. You see how it's kind of keeping the hairdryer back. As it starts melting, the water will start unfreezing the other ice that it's running across. So it kind of starts accelerating pretty quickly. And I'm just doing 1/2 at a time, so I can focus on 1/2, because there's actually like 2 different pieces back here. You can see there's a screw in the middle there. So from here, you can see a wall back between here. So from here to the left is like one panel. So I'm doing this one first, and then I'm gonna do the bigger one, because this will have more time to just kind of naturally warm up from the fridge being open. My theory on why this side has more ice is because the milk is on this side of the fridge and the kids' sippy cups are on this side of the fridge. So this side gets opened and closed more often. So I think because it gets it'll be open, and moist air will run in and hit the back corner of the fridge here, and then it'll get closed and it'll start freezing. So I think this side freezes first because of that. So I'm going to go ahead and put the camera in a different position, and I'm going to finish this side and then get started on this side. And you can see the water is dripping into this tray, and then it runs down here and goes out there. Actually, I'll run outside real quick and show you what it looks like with water coming out. Okay, so I'm out here on the back side of the fridge. This is the kitchen slide. So this is the vent for the refrigerator. Anytime you look at an RV and you see vents like this or up high, that's where the refrigerator is on the inside. And you can see there's a little hose right here, and it's dripping out. That's all the water that's inside that I'm melting. It's running out through this hose and coming outside. All right, we're back inside. I'm gonna go ahead and get this side finished up, and I can get started on this side. Alrighty, half of it is done. It goes pretty well. Like I said, once you can get to the fins, I actually like to blow the air up under the fins, so then it, because all the frost is just up on the front edge, so once you can get back behind it, it kind of gets in there and loosens it up, and then you saw me just pulling chunks off. I'm just chucking them back behind me into the sink back here. So I'm gonna go ahead and get started on the other side, and actually make a pretty good time on this. One thing I forgot to mention real quick, this little wire up here in the corner, and the little end of it here, this is the temperature sensor for the inside of the fridge. So you just really want to make sure that you don't have super hot air hitting this and possibly warping the shielding or warping the wire itself. So that's why, back up here, that's why I was trying to pull chunks off rather than hit it with really hot air. So anyway, so that's what that is. So let's move on.
right in the center of it.
Wow.
Look at that. Oh, look at your
Nice.
face. You look like you're on like one of those shows where you can't talk.
I'm gonna lower my voice. I'm a witness. I saw the crime. Oh, here it comes. All right, she's ready. The last big chunk. Look at that. Look at that. That's a cool view. You can see the fins are in here. That's what I was saying, when you warm up the fins, it just slides right off. So all the condensation kind of sits. The back of the fridge is here. All this condensation kind of sits up in the front like this, except for back in the corner where the condensation could get around the side. Up in the corner up here, it could just kind of get around the side and start freezing. But in between the fins, it stays pretty much in the front. So that's it. So now we're all done. What I'm going to do now, just to wrap things up, I'm just going to kind of run a paper towel. I'm just going to kind of make it thin and run it between the fins just to get that first layer of condensation off. It's not going to matter much because it's like 98% humidity outside in Central Florida right now. So this will start freezing up again quite soon. Hopefully I won't let it go quite as long next time. So I'm just going to dry off as much as I can. Some of the ice chunks and stuff were falling down here in the bottom. And one of the most important things is before I go outside to the outside fridge and grab the milk and the cheese and all that stuff that needs to come back in here, I'm going to leave my probe in here so I know when we're back down to an appropriate temperature for the fridge before moving stuff back in here. So I'm going to get this all dried out, get it closed back up, let it cool back down, and then bring the stuff back in, and then we're all done. I will talk about defrosting freezers in a separate video. It's not near as complex because there's no fins, there's just a bunch of frost that sits on the back. But we actually just made a run to Sam's Club and Aldi and Trader Joe's over the last week or so. So our freezer is full. We don't have anywhere to put this stuff. So next time our freezer gets low, we'll pull the stuff out and we'll defrost that. It's not near as bad as in here. So that's pretty much it. Do you have any questions, honey?
Do you normally keep that probe in the refrigerator?
Yeah, so I do keep this probe in here. This is one of 3 probes that we have on our weather station. I have one in here that sits kind of back here because the milk sits here, so that's really kind of the thing that'll turn the fastest. So I have this sit here by the milk. I have one in the freezer, and I have one outside, and then the station itself that's up here by the door will tell us the temperature in here. Well, that's going to do it for today's episode. Hopefully you learned something, and it was, I know watching ice melt is about as fun as watching water boil. However, if you have an RV, this is something you're going to have to do at some point. So thank you guys for watching, and make sure to like, comment, subscribe, share this video with your friends. Check us out on Patreon at patreon.com/5togo to join our family, our ever-growing family. We're doing some fun things over there. We have patron-only videos. We just released our first Pacific Northwest video. We're calling it one of our lost episodes. We have 2 more to go, and the more patrons we get, the more of those episodes we'll release. So check that out, and we will see you guys in the next episode. Bye.